Hey, everybody. Anime Podcast, Episode 6. You already know what it is. Not going to run through the acronym this time. We're just going to get straight into it. One of our listeners emailed me, believe it or not, and said that he really appreciated the anime news segment that we did.
Oh, we have a listener now.
We have like 3 listeners, I think, that I know of personally.
Oh, really?
Yes. And one of them, shout out to Mario. That's his online handle. He said he liked the anime news segment, but I can't think of any news. I mean, I can think of some stuff, but it's not really related to anything that we're talking about. So I'm in the future, just for you, man, I'm going to keep my eyes peeled so that if there's anything important, relevant to our tastes, our interest in anime, that I could talk about it.
Cool.
Or Grenchler's interest as well. Yeah. Grenchler is over here sitting across from me.
That is correct. I am sitting across from him.
And I'm Whooper. So now we've introduced ourselves. We can talk about some anime. And I think we're going to start off with Hellsing Ultimate this week.
Hellsing.
Indeed. This is episode 6 of Hellsing. So we are past the halfway point.
Yeah.
Because there's only 10 episodes. It's a 10-episode OVA. And this one was, like the last one, was largely focused on just a lot of combat
and explosions,
gore,
and yep. What Hellsing's really known for?
Power violence, and I enjoyed it. It was cool.
I thought the illusion.
Yes, that
the lady did was super cool.
Yeah, that's the. I don't know if we'll end up going with that screenshot for sure. The little thumbnail or whatever for this section of the video that y'all are seeing right now. But that's the one I picked out. Okay. Was the one with what is her name? I wrote it down here. Zoran Blitz. When she uses her little hand power and hits the ground, and then
like the words like scrawl off of her face and her arm and like form that monstrous thing.
Yeah. And then you see her looking in the window. That's the screenshot that's probably up right now that y'all are seeing. It was my favorite part for sure. I like the like mindfuck kind of stuff in anime. That's something that Japan tends to go for a lot. And it's, if they can pull it off, then it's awesome. It's something you don't see, everywhere else.
Right.
So it was the vampire Nazis' assault on Hellsing HQ was the main focus of the episode. But before any of that, we got the little powwow between the leaders of the Catholic resistance movement or whatever.
Right, the different members of Iscariot.
Right.
And all their branches and stuff.
Yeah,
they
the different sects.
3,000 soldiers or something together. Yeah. And they're essentially just going to destroy what's left of England and take it back. What's left of the Protestants. Yeah,
they're definitely happy about the fact that hell is being, unleashed on London because they see it as like a Protestant capital full of sinners and heretics.
Right.
And they're also happy about the fact that they have the ability now to attack Millennium and like kind of present themselves as the heroes and like save the day.
Win-win.
Yeah, and they're also happy about the fact that shit's going down in America. Yep. The president is dead, and 13 of his cabinet members are as well, because a presidential aide or something was turned into a vampire
and just killed everybody during like a session of Congress or something.
Yeah, I want to see the secret 11th episode of this OVA where you see
America,
where you see the congressional aide or the presidential aide or whatever get turned into a vampire and invade Congress and start chomping on everybody's necks and turning everyone into a vampire.
This is also one of the first times you see that this conflict is happening outside of just London.
Yeah, it's a worldwide
The Millennium is attacking everywhere at once, essentially.
Well, I mean, we know about America and London.
Right. And you can infer from that, though, that it's more than just those two. That
it's
probably all of the enemies of Nazi Germany, which would be America, essentially all of half of Europe, Russia, Italy would still be okay somehow.
Yeah,
and they were friends during the war. Mussolini
and Japan.
Yep, them too.
So Japan's probably not getting attacked. How convenient, since this is an anime.
That's how they're chronicling it. It's like, we didn't get attacked, so we might as well make an anime about it.
All right. So that's what's going on from Iscariot's perspective.
Right.
They're kind of happy about how things are unfolding. Not happy is Integra. But despite the fact that she's just been completely shown up by Iscariot, who have like come to her aid,
come in and like save the day. Yeah.
Yeah. She's still like acting cool and unflappable. Like light my cigar. Take me back to my home base. And I didn't really, I wasn't really vibing with that. The fact that they were just cooperating with her, and the way that the show justified it was they went to like a little kind of deformed chibi segment where she was like, "Oh, I'm so powerful. Oh, I don't know how to deal with her. I don't know how to deal with women. I guess we better do what she says."
Well, they're not doing what she says. They're doing what Alexander says, and he's like, "Okay, sure."
Yeah, but why?
He has a reason.
Does he?
Of course he does, because one of his ultimate goals is to destroy Hellsing.
No, it seems to me that that's Maxwell's goal. He's like the guy who gets...
yeah, you see him as a child.
He becomes an archbishop. Yeah. That's what happens, the little... when they're watching
he gets
London Burn.
The red and gold little sash around his neck.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems to me that Alexander is kind of like the Major in that he wants war and bloodshed, and he's just kind of psychotic. So I didn't like the show's tendency to use those goofy cutaways to that like weird MTV style.
Welcome back to MTV Cribs. This
Nazi
week,
edition.
Hellsing Castle.
I'm not really liking it when it's being used to kind of move the story along in a way that doesn't necessarily make sense to me. But I also have not read the manga, so I'm sure it comes off a little more naturally there, and it's fine. I would say that it's on the same level as like the stuff in Full Metal Alchemist, which is occasionally annoying and intrusive, but it's also just kind of part of the show's style, and it's just something that you have to deal with. Or sometimes it might be enjoyable,
Yeah, like they just get really weird. Someone's like embarrassed, and Al turns into like he just turns into like a blob essentially with a little spike on top of him.
Yeah, I kind of get a similar feel from Hellsing.
Yeah, I think so.
There was a lot of cool. Like I think this may have been the Hellsing episode that I enjoyed the most.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of just cool stuff going on. Most of which happened in the invasion scene. Like the thing with Ceres on the roof of the Hellsing building.
Shooting down all the missiles and like blowing up the
huge blimp.
One thing I really liked about that scene was for the majority of it when she's shooting at it, which takes, 30 seconds or something like that. It's CG, all the smoke is CG and everything. But when it finally comes down and crashes, that's all hand drawn.
Yeah.
They switched mediums because it was a more important scene than 8,000 bullets flying past something.
Okay. I did not distinguish. I knew that there was a 3D aspect to all the blimp scenes, but I didn't distinguish between like individual parts of the crash and the moments leading up to it. I think that the two modes, the 2D animation and the 3D animation were pretty, I think they worked well together. I think
I think so.
They were blended together pretty nicely.
It was also in the scene with all the different sects of Iscariot. You had like the
soldiers,
the mass troops. All the soldiers were CG, but each of the commanders sitting in front of them were drawn.
Right. Yeah. The CG soldiers, that was more distracting to me.
Yeah. Well,
because there's so many of them.
But
they're people.
There's so many of them, but that's trying to draw that many people in detail.
Oh, sure.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
They'd end up looking like little humps.
Yeah.
With a bunch of them.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
sticks.
you can just shoot, quote unquote, shoot the scene from a greater distance, so that you can afford to be a little less detailed.
Yeah.
It just because it would take a long time doesn't mean that you can't like frame the scene differently in order to make it all 2D. But I mean, even so, yeah, I agree that when you have that many people that you're trying to draw or animate or put in a scene or whatever, sometimes you got to use a computer.
You got to sacrifice some things.
It's 2017, man.
This was not 2017.
No, it was like 2007.
2007.
Or
this is probably closer to 8 or 9 now.
Yeah, because we are getting closer to the end.
Next episode's the last one Madhouse did.
Looking forward to it.
Yep.
The illusion was very cool. The blimp getting shot down was cool. The landmines that they had in the ground, the zombies like jumping from the hilts of knives.
Yeah.
So
in order to get to it past landmines, that was super cool.
Yeah, that was like that was something out of Naruto. If Naruto was cool, if it wasn't like a transparent cash grab aimed at 12-year-olds.
Well said.
So I had a note here that I wanted to discuss. We know that a lot of characters in the show love war, like the Major, Alexander,
Hellsing,
Alucard.
Yeah.
He's crazy about war. We get just a little bit of dialogue from him on the ship. He's still on the aircraft carrier, which
he's moving it by sheer force of will at this point.
Other people are aware that that's going on. So we know that a lot of people, and he kind of has a little monologue about how he loves like the smell of blood and war and stuff.
Yeah, he can smell like dying children and
right,
stuff like that.
Yeah. So we know a lot of people in the show love war, and we know that the mercenaries that Hellsing has hired, is that the right term for them? Are they mercs?
Yeah, they're mercenaries.
Okay.
Anyone you hire that shoots guns is generally a mercenary.
Right. So they profit from war. But what is the show? How are we supposed to feel as audience members? Because this is a war story, okay, but it also involves like vampires and Nazis. I'm just like I understand that the show is supposed to be like a cool action flick kind of thing.
Yeah.
But why this setting?
It's like a Transformers movie. Why that setting?
But what are we supposed to be learning? Like I don't feel as though I'm learning anything or taking anything away from the show. It's just cool sometimes.
But do you have to learn something or take something away to enjoy something?
I mean, I'd like to. Yeah.
Well, let's take away vampires are bad, okay?
Yeah, but the vampires are bad. And the show is definitely making that point because the quote unquote good guys are fighting against the vampires. Now they're also fighting against the Nazis, but I don't get the sense from the show that it's like condemning Nazism. And that's not the show's responsibility to do that. It's not a requirement. I can watch something that features Nazis and that kind of makes a joke out of them and is willing to, display positive traits that they have, I guess, as individuals, not as members of the Nazi party.
Right.
I'm comfortable with that. I'm fine with it. But I don't feel as though I'm like learning anything. I can't say that I can speak too clearly to the show's themes other than there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of guns.
I think that's the theme.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I agree, but I tend to look for a little more than that, I guess.
Maybe there will be more. I mean, we've still got another 4 episodes.
Yeah, that's right. 4.
Maybe there'll be, more dialogue-heavy episodes. Like, we remember at some point, Alucard knows the Queen of England.
Right, that's true.
And she's like, go take care of this. And he's like, I'm on it.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Did you watch the end credits?
Yes, I did.
They were pretty goofy. I really liked the song. It had like a fuzzy guitar riff to it.
Yeah.
It sounded kind of like a Muse song, but with a female vocalist.
Yeah.
So I might look up that band because it was pretty cool. But the stuff that was going on in the end credits was just weird. It was kind of funny. All the Nazi vampires arguing about like which part of the soldier they wanted to eat.
Yeah.
And Saris complaining about sexual harassment and stuff.
Yeah, working with the mercenaries.
Yeah.
And
Poor girl.
And then afterwards you see her like run into, because the episode continues after the credits are over.
Right, for like a minute or something.
And she breaks into that room and sees what we can only assume are a bunch of the mercenaries just torn to pieces.
Right.
At that point.
And she's like, ah!
Right.
And then we see Zoran Blitz, who's like, you're all going to die.
So there's going to be a showdown between those two.
Yeah, probably. Just like there's currently a showdown between Walter and that cowboy-looking guy, if I'm remembering his character design correctly from the last episode.
Yeah, he had like a big trench coat.
So it's just a very anime thing, like the different members of the good guy team or squad or whatever get matched up against different individual members of the bad
guy team.
Yeah. So hopefully all those fights, play out satisfyingly.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to another show. We just did an old one, a quote-unquote classic. So how about we do a currently airing one?
I think a lot of people would consider Hellsing a classic.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would too. I wouldn't, not so far, but I've only seen 60% of it.
Okay. Yeah, let's do some whaling.
Okay.
Let's get some lamp oil in here.
Children of the Whales. This is episode 8, and it was... What did you think of it?
Well, I watched it, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half ago or something.
Okay.
And it was very... It was an episode.
It was an episode of
I
anime.
think that's the best compliment I can give it, is that it was an episode.
One thing that I liked about... I mean, I thought almost everything about the episode was pretty bad, and I think the show is pretty bad. Although it's being received pretty positively in anime circles.
Which probably tells you a lot about anime circles.
Yeah, well, I mean, the people who really, really love anime tend to be pretty forgiving of anime. Because it kind of like factors into their identity, not only as pop culture consumers, but as like individuals.
And as full-time weebs.
Yeah, yeah.
None of those part-timers.
No, absolutely not.
I think I can understand what you're saying like that. Like, I really enjoy the Transformers franchise. Like, I've seen, some of the older cartoons, some of the newer cartoons. Like, I forget what one of the newer ones was called. It was called Transformers Prime or something. It was an animated kids show, but it was actually pretty well done. And the movies, the first movie was not terrible. And the rest of them have been utter garbage, but I still enjoy them regardless.
Why are we talking about Transformers?
Because I was, one, Japanese.
That's true. Japanese Transformers was originally a Japanese franchise.
No, but what you said, how some anime people can be forgiving of it.
Because they really love it. And
I'm forgiving of the Transformers franchise, regardless of how terrible the movies are, because I think the idea of Transformers is kind of cool.
I see what you're saying, but this is a little different. I'm talking about people who are like Children of the Whales apologists and think that it's a good piece of television programming.
Oh, well, I don't think the movies are any good. The Transformers movies are terrible.
It's different. But let's talk about the episode. One thing that I did like about... I mean, I thought almost everything was bad. One thing I did like about it was that it rationalized the pink-haired dude's behavior. We got the scene, the flashback scene of him,
right?
Like his parents are abandoning him or whatever because he's kind of a freak of nature.
Because he has emotions.
Yeah, and the reason for that is when all the people on the Skylos or whatever, when all the people on that ship are being taken to the news so that they can have their emotions like drained out of them or whatever.
Right.
When they try to go through the same process with him, all the emotions that are stored up in the news kind of backflow into him. And as a result, he suffers from what appears to be like a psychotic break. So that's the reason for his behavior.
I actually thought all the scenes surrounding him were pointless. I was like, why are we getting this much information on a character we know absolutely nothing about and have no attachment to?
I agree like 90%.
It's like trying to explain your villain after the fact rather than making them sympathetic before.
Well, he's not the kind of character... I mean, the whole thing about Children of the Whales is one group of people is open with their emotions, one group of people is closed off. And I think the point that the show is making is human beings are emotional creatures. We should embrace that and not try to seal that away. So with this character... they're, I guess, addressing that dichotomy. He has emotions, but he wasn't allowed to express them because he was part of that culture that forbids that kind of thing. So that's why he was so crazy. And it's another way of condemning people who are like, yeah, just shut off the part of your brain that wants to be happy or sad or upset or whatever.
Right. And there was something more to that, because I remember he mentioned at some point, when he's like, I like fighting these people from the Falena because...
Right. The mud whale.
I don't know why I can't speak in proper sentences today. Because they have like emotional responses to him attacking them.
So it's more fun to kill them.
Right, because they actually respond rather than just, blank stare, defend, attack.
Right.
They're feeling, they're emoting.
Right. Yeah, I agree with your point about Like, why are we learning about this guy? I mean, the show has just stumbled over its own feet from like episode 3 or 4 onward to me. And so whenever we get too much information about a character, or whenever we get like a set amount of information about a character, it feels as though it's not appropriate, because the characters haven't been properly established as worth investing in and caring about.
That may be due to the fact that there are too many characters.
Yeah, there definitely are. For a show of this length, it's probably going to be only like 12 episodes or something. I mean, 12-episode shows can handle large casts, but this one can't. So that, it suffers as a result.
We had that scene up in the tower with the girl that apparently likes Oni.
Right.
And then those other 2 characters come out of nowhere, and you have no idea who they are, no idea what their significance is.
Well, we
know that they're like basement dwellers.
Right. They have some kind of term along those lines for themselves. Right. What was the name of the little dungeon that they were in?
I don't remember.
Neither do I. But they do have that term for themselves, indicating like they're moles or something.
Yeah, like the tunnel rats. If you've ever played Fallout 3, or tunnel snakes, that's what it was.
It's something along those lines. And the point of their characters, I guess, is to just offer some pushback against, Oni's chums who are still in the mud whale. Like, oh, why has your boy gone off and done this? And it provides a scene transition to Oni getting shot in the leg or whatever.
Right. He'll come back alive. Blood.
Yeah. I mean, does anyone really care? I don't care about. I don't think there's a single character who I'm really, except for the girl with the red outfit and the...
Right. Damn, son.
Right, her. Yeah, there was a little less goofiness in the subs this week. But I thought the episode was just as bizarre.
Yeah, and we had the exact same song and what seemed like the exact same dance from the girl on top of the
sand-bending twin.
Yeah, with rainbow arms of happiness.
Right. We don't know what those little hands... her song is evidently causing those hands to come up out of the ground and, like, embrace people. So I'm guessing, she's, like, singing to the souls of the dead who are, like, manifesting themselves in those rainbow arms. And the children are all like, they're warm.
Right.
So...
Look, Mommy...
Who knows what's going to go on with that?
Yeah, that was quite odd.
Dude, the worst part of the episode was at the very beginning. You remember last time they
all run in and they all got shot. And like, wow, this really hurts.
The worst part of the episode was the show's terrible attempt to establish that green-haired captain dude's relationship to Suo. The captain who we met like 2 episodes ago, he's like, I'm leading this expedition into the other ship. Everyone come with me.
Dun, da, da, dun,
we get like
dun, dun.
We get like a 10-second or like a 5-second shot of him next to Suo, and he was like, "Oh, I wanted to tease you more and like be by your side," and then he just dies. It's just awful. Why are we still watching this? I'm at this point, I'm finishing it. Like, I think it's stupid to commit yourself to finishing an anime just because you like want to say that you finished it. I think that's really dumb, but I'm doing it.
Here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
Episode 8.
And I'm gonna finish it. Just why not? I mean, I'm able to talk about it, so at least something is coming out of it.
That's true.
As opposed to just like trying to check it off your My Anime list or whatever.
It's consistently something we can rag on.
Also, at the end of the episode, the captain of the Skylos, whatever, he hints at the fact that like he knows that the people on the mud whale are short-lived. The people who with Thymia.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah, there's a reason for it, and he's like, I bet you don't even know what it is. So more Lost type plotting.
Yeah. You guys were abandoned 100 years ago. You don't even know why.
Yeah, there's probably going to be some episode that's most like in the next 4 episodes. There's probably going to be one that's mostly dedicated to, explaining why that is. Maybe with like a huge amount of backstory and flashbacks and stuff. So I'm sure maybe that episode will be really cool. Just a big information dump about why the show's set up the way it is, why the world is in the shape that it is. We'll see. Do you have any other thoughts about Children of the Whales this week?
More chromatic aberration, but no.
Okay, it's aberration, dude.
Aberration.
I just have to.
I don't know.
Like I've listened to some of the podcasts, some of the past episodes. Every time you say aberration, I just want to like curl up into a ball and die.
I'm gonna curl up into a ball and jump into the sand ocean.
Yeah. Sure. No, I definitely don't want to do that, dude. I don't want to be in the Children of the Whales universe. Of all 6 of these shows, that's the one I want to be in the least because it makes the least sense. I would rather be in Hellsing's universe and get turned into a vampire. That's preferable to existing in this logicless, pointless world. All right, let's move on.
Okay.
What's next?
Elmo, as my old teacher would say. Enough, let's move on.
Enough, let's move on. Wouldn't that be Elmo?
Elmo. I said Elmo.
Oh, I thought you said elbow.
Like Elmo.
In fact, I think you did say elbow. I think when we listen to this back, you're going to hear that you said elbow.
Okay. Anyways.
Older one. Ava or Dandy?
Let's do Dandy. Wait,
okay.
No, actually, let's do Ava because we saved it for last time and it took way too long.
Okay.
So let's go Evangelion.
Sure.
We did episodes 11 and 12 this time.
Right.
We had Spider Bro.
Yes.
And Bomb Squad.
Right. Those are your names, I guess, for the angels.
Yep.
And we'll just go ahead and refer to them by those names rather than their official names, which I don't think we've heard. After 12 episodes in the show, I don't think we've heard any of their real names.
Angel 8 is all we got.
Right. And 9?
And the next one.
Right. Was Angel 8 the Spider Bro? Was he from episode 11? And then Angel 9 was episode 12?
I think so.
Okay. I mean, keeping track isn't totally important. There is a limited number, like there's a set amount of angels. And Gendo, the big string puller in the show, is aware of that. He knows how many angels there will be. Has this show referenced the Dead Sea Scrolls at all?
No.
No, not in any of the SEAL meetings or anything?
If it has, it escaped me.
Okay. I mean, it'll definitely get into that a little bit later in the show once it starts exploring like what exactly the angels are and everything that's going on. Because just watching the show, there's something happening beyond just kids getting the robots and they fight the bad angels. Right. Something weird is happening behind the scenes. So let's talk about Spider Bro first, I guess.
Yep. It's just you don't even see it until Asuka opens the door. All you see is the legs.
Right.
You don't see the actual face, and she opens. This is the way we're supposed to go. Opens the door. Closes the door.
I love that part so much. First of all, I love the fact that Asuka is kind of like put in her place by that because she's a little brat. So whenever she is proven not to be as smart or as capable as she thinks she is, there's always kind of a moment of like, yes, justice has been served. But it's also like the way that she swings the door closed and like the terrified expression on her face. It's just really, it looks great.
One thing I actually really appreciate about that scene is you can tell it's a heavy door, and she instead of just like comically slamming shut, you can see she really has to struggle to shut the door.
Exactly, and Shinji really has to struggle to turn that crank to get in the manual door because there is a blackout.
All right, everything's off.
That's like the most significant element of this episode, I think,
because most likely it was done by someone on purpose.
Right, that's
somebody
what they're
on the inside.
That's what they're speculating is that like. The way that the geofront has been built.
It's like a backup to the backup to the backup.
Right. And there's no way this would happen unless someone did it on purpose, unless someone was purposely sabotaging NERV. So I'm curious about your theory on who that might be. If you think it's someone that we've already met, if you think it's...
I think it's the 3 computers.
The Magi.
The Magi, yeah.
Okay. We should talk about the Magi. At the beginning of episode 11, it's like Fuyutsuki, the vice commander, and Ritsuko, and 2 of I forget their names. Shoot. The guys who are like on the bridge or whatever, who are helping out whenever there's an angel attack. They're like running computers or something.
Yep.
They're all like in the train on the way to work, and like some people are picking up their dry cleaning, and it's just so it's like so mundane, everything that they're doing, which is so comical when you think about the fact that this is a post-apocalypse and there are giant angels trying to wipe out humanity that could show up at any moment. But they do, in that scene, they mention the Magi, the supercomputers. Did you remember them having talked about them before?
No,
in previous episodes? They've dropped that name like 2 or 3 times already. But this was the first time that there was really
an explanation.
Large, right? Yeah, some expository dialogue about what they are. They're the 3 computers
that essentially comprise their entire system of government.
Right. Yeah. The council of Neo Tokyo 3, like the above ground part where all the citizens live, is just a farce. It's a sham, and the Magi make all decisions. And they also help run Nerve's tactical unit or whatever
by helping decide what they should do.
Right. So you think that the Magi, that the supercomputers are like have attained sentience or something, and that they're like rising up? This is like an artificial intelligence?
I don't think they're necessarily rising up, because they suggested basically everyone leave, let everything blow up, let the end of this come about. That was their recommendation. All three recommended that to Nerve. Well, just like, let's go.
They recommended that that the citizens be evacuated.
No, Nerve as well.
I do remember that. Yeah, I guess they did want Nerve to relocate. Huh. And then Misato is like, no, wait. Hold on. No, that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if the Magi are like if the Magi are like everyone get out, including Nerve, then who decides not to follow that order?
Misato.
No, because episode 11 is the one where she's trapped in the elevator the entire time with Kaji. Episode 12 is the one where she's running tactical to beat the bomb.
Oh, I got things mixed up.
Yeah, we both did, I think. Episode 11 is the one with the Magi. That's the one with the acid.
Right.
Okay, so... Oh, God.
This show's so complicated. Especially when you watch them back to back, it can kind of seem like one big episode.
I mean, the power goes out in episode 11.
Correct. Someone had to have done it.
Right. Well, that's the speculation. We don't know for sure, I don't think. The blackout's speculated to have been caused by humans. And then the kids, the 3 kids, Shinji, Asuka, Rei, they're trying to get into the thing.
And they fall through the vent, and his dad, Kendo, had... they'd manually prepared the Evas.
Yeah, that was I really like that scene. That's cool.
In order to be able to get them. He's like, he knew you would be here.
Yeah, but Gendo is there. He's at Nerve HQ, and so is Ritsuko, who I think is also integral in setting all that up. Misato's trapped in the elevator.
Right.
The whole episode, just like being a goof.
Yep.
And trying to avoid Kaji, because last time they were in an elevator together, he
canoodling.
He like took advantage of her.
Sure.
Yeah. So they get into the Avas, and they
have to like crawl out.
Yeah, with the battery packs. So they only have like 3 minutes, because they usually have the umbilical cords or whatever they're called.
Right. They have basically just a giant power cable attached to them in order to run them, and once that runs out, they have a minute after that cord is disconnected. So with the battery pack, they have 5 minutes, if I remember correctly from the screen.
I thought it was 3 in this episode, because it was a different situation.
Possibly.
But anyway, Asuka comes up with that strategy where one of them goes down and gets the rifle, and Shinji shoots it, and it blows up.
Right.
And they win. And one thing that I really like about this episode, at the end, the 3 of them are like, they're still in their plug suits, and they're sitting on that grassy hill looking up at the stars. Mm-hmm. This is like the very end of the episode, I think. And Shinji talks about how beautiful the stars are, like the night sky is when all the lights are off, because you can see more effectively. And Asuka is like
completely the opposite.
Yeah, she's like, no, I feel more comfortable and more at ease when I can see the lights on, the city lights on,
so I can see that everyone's still there.
Yeah, so I know that people live there. So Shinji is more comfortable in isolation, but Asuka needs
like the center of attention.
Well, yeah, she definitely needs to be the center of attention, but she just needs other people.
Companionship.
Yeah. And And she also needs to validate herself by comparing herself to others.
And they also got into the reasons, like, why do you pilot the Eva?
Right, because Shinji asked that to Rei in episode 6, I think, before they shoot the big gun using all of Japan's electricity.
Right, and she says, like, essentially, why not?
That's what... Wait, who says that?
Isn't that what Rei says?
No, Rei says... She says something very specific. She says, I have a bond with all... I'm bonded to all living things. So she feels a responsibility to pilot the Eva and a duty because she feels as though she's connected to everything and everyone.
Okay.
And we got in one of these 2 episodes, she says, I don't like meat. You remember that?
Yeah.
When they're...
yeah, because they were going to go for... they're going to get a steak dinner.
Yes, that's from episode 12.
Yep.
But Rei's like, I don't like meat. So that, to me, that reinforces the idea of her being connected to everything. Like she won't eat animals who would have suffered in the production of the food.
So she's vegan.
Yeah. And I actually think that the Rebuild movies, which are like the films with an alternate continuity of Evangelion, even say outright that she's a vegetarian or a vegan. So they make it even more explicit. But Asuka's reason for piloting an Eva is...
So people can see how great I am.
Yes, essentially. Yeah. So I thought that was a neat, look at all 3 of their characters. That little scene on the hill. So that was episode 11. Episode 12, Misato is highly involved in this one. In fact, she's like the first character that we really focus on.
Because she gets her promotion and she has a promotional dinner that...
The kids have one for her.
The kids like organize for her, yeah.
Yeah. Ava's goofy like that. And Asuka really wants Kaji to come because she has a little crush on him.
Right,
and then he shows up
with the lab assistant.
Ritsuko.
And Misato's...
Yeah, Misato and Asuka
well.
are both jealous. Yeah, so Eva is definitely not above playing with those sorts of little crushes that characters have on one another.
Quadrangles at this point.
Yeah. But it's not all about that.
No, it's definitely more focused on the rest of the substance of the show.
Yeah, the conflict between the Evas and the angels, what exactly both of those are, the psychology of its characters.
Are the angels supposed to literally be angels, like the forces of God condemning the world, essentially?
I can't answer that.
You can't answer that, but that's what I'm starting to think.
But Shinji does ask when they're crawling through the vents in episode 11.
Why are they called angels?
What are the angels?
Why are they called angels? Because there has to be a reason.
Yeah. Well, you've noticed that there's a lot of religious symbolism in Eva.
Right.
We know that Adam, the first man, that's the little embryo-looking thing that Gendo says is the key to the Human Instrumentality Project. When angels blow up, there's oftentimes like a cross shape. That's what the explosion looks like. A lot of the angels' names are named after biblical figures, their actual names.
And we also see from the second impact something you also see in the theme song, which I kind of wish theme songs didn't use any clips from the actual show.
Yeah,
which I know is a lot more expensive, and that's one of the reasons they don't do it. But
Eva uses plenty of original footage, like all the scenes of the characters going like doing their little head bobs or whatever. That was all animated for the theme song.
Right.
But a lot of it there's still shots.
You see Unit 1 with those wings.
Yes.
And I'm glad see those wings during the second impact.
I'm glad you made that connection. Yeah. So the second impact, we were previously told, I think there's a scene like where the characters are in school and they're in history class or something and they're learning about the second impact.
It had nothing to do with angels or something like that.
Yeah, they're just fed an alternate version of history where there was some accident at the South Pole or something, and that killed half the population of the world.
Population, yeah.
But it was a result of what's the word?
Directive 17. It was like an offensive against the angels.
Yeah, kind of. It was there was an angel encounter. And something went wrong, and as a result, yes. So whatever angel was down at the South Pole grew those wings the same way that we see Eva 01 growing the wings in the OP.
Right.
And down at the South Pole when that happened was Misato and her father. So he, with his like dying breath, puts her in a little escape pod or whatever.
Or it looks like an entry plug. Long tubular with the hatch opens the same way.
I didn't really think about that, and I kind of question that parallel. I don't think if you were to go back that they would look the same.
They might not. That's just what I remember, though. I remember thinking to myself specifically, "Hey, that kind of looks like an entry plug."
Well, I mean, he was probably involved with N.I.M.E or some organization that had knowledge of angels. If he was down there, you know. But he does like save Misato's life.
So if that was the second impact, what was the first?
Good question. You may or may not learn about the first impact in the show. There is an answer to that question, but I'm not sure if the show Evangelion answers it.
Might be in one of the movies.
In one of the movies. Also, there was a PS2 game called Neon Genesis Evangelion 2, which has a lot of lore, like official lore in it. That you can just find it all online.
PS2 emulators, let's go.
I mean, I honestly kind of want to play it. But the learning about Misato's backstory and her revealing to Shinji all the stuff about her dad.
She thought he was a coward.
Yeah, and she agreed with her mom when she wanted to divorce her because she was crying all the time. And he didn't take care of their family, and he was just obsessed with his work. Draws a very clear parallel between Misato
and
Shinji, whose dad also does not really care for his son, who is obsessed with his work, who's separated from his wife now by, because of one circumstance or another. They're not together. And yeah, so Shinji, is obviously relating to her. And she to him, I think, a little bit at this point, because she realizes at the party, that little party that you mentioned that the kids throw for her, because of her promotion.
He doesn't like crowds.
Yeah, and she notices that and is quietly talking to him about it while everyone else is making a big fucking noise about, like, who cares?
Yeah. Who cares, man?
Yeah, he's definitely like an anxious kid. He doesn't. I mean, as we observed at the end of episode 11, when he was like, "I really love when all those city lights are off, so you can see the stars at night."
Right.
He's comfortable, being alone and not seeing all the lights on because he's been alone for a good portion of his life.
I have so many theories about this show and like what everything is.
Dude.
I don't have enough answers to know if my theories are correct.
Yeah. Well, we can just talk about those theories, like one podcast episode at a time. Every couple of Ava episodes at a time, we can talk about it.
I don't know for certain, and I don't have much proof to it, but I really do think that the angels probably are just like a force of a higher being or something like that, sent to end the world or to punish for some specific thing.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense that theory makes sense because they are called angels. So they're supposed to be administering divine judgment or retribution or whatever.
And the Evas are probably reverse engineered from something they have from one of the angels, because the angels seem to have an idea, if an angel is representative of an actual angel, or of an angel, like an angel of God, then if we were to create something that was essentially like a false angel, like the Evas,
that would be like blasphemy.
Exactly. It would be, thou shalt have no other idols before me. And yet you put these Evas up on a huge pedestal for the world to applaud and say, look what they can do. They're fighting back for us. That would be something they would go against.
Right. So you feel as though the angels do specifically target Nerve.
Right.
We had the one angel with the drill. Yep. We've seen that episode, right?
Yeah. That was Cubes-on.
Yeah. Ramiel, I think, is the Blue Diamond's name.
Ramiel. I know that angel's name as well.
Yeah. I'm telling you, all the angels are named after like biblical figures.
Probably actual angels as well.
Most likely. So yeah, we had that one trying to bore directly into Nerve HQ, and in episode 11 we had the angel that was crying those acidic tears into the little, I don't know, shaft or whatever, straight down into
where the Eva's exit. It's like
right,
the little square.
Right.
Assuming they would be right under it, which they were.
So they are
targeting them.
Yeah. We're running out of time, man. I'm looking at the timer over here. We've been talking about Ava for too long. We talked about all the shows for too long.
Okay. Well, we've got 3 left.
We do. Yeah, let's just cut it off here. There's more. Of course, there's more we could talk about because Ava's it's so dense.
Thanks, Lucas.
There's more we could say. No, that wasn't Lucas. That was somebody else. Rick Berman, I think, was the guy's name.
I thought Lucas literally said.
No,
it's so dense.
It's a guy who worked on Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't Lucas. All right, that was an old one. Let's do a new one. What's left? Last Tour or Mage's Bride?
Mage's Bride.
All right, let's do Last Tour. It's just on my screen here.
Okay.
All right, let's go ahead and rate these episodes. So we'll go over what happened in each of them really quickly, so you can remember which was which. Episode 4 was the one with the camera.
It's the camera
and the temple.
And the temple with all the statues that are all looking to the right.
Yes, all those weird stone statues.
Yep.
The tall, thin, weird things.
Yep.
Episode 5. They go to a house, and there's running water and electricity, and they dream about
what we would put in the house, a bookcase and a bunk bed.
Right.
You have a bed on top of another bed.
Yeah. They also Chi also dreams. She has a weird dream where you is huge, like a gigantic fish. And at the end of the episode, there was a scene where they make music by putting out a whole bunch of objects for the rain to hit.
I think we overdid it a little bit.
What do you mean?
They said that specifically, they put out as many things as they could find. They said,
right.
I think we overdid it a little bit.
Yeah, there was some overproduction right there.
Yeah.
And episode 6 was the one where they meet Ishii, the
airplane engineer.
the pilot. Yes, the engineer.
And she helps them fix their half track because they broke a flywheel.
Oh, that was those were some technical terms flying at me. I actually did write down that it's called a Kettenkrad.
Yeah. It's a German small transport.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds German.
Yeah, but that little piece she was holding is a flywheel.
Right. So we have airplane engineer woman. We have the music and the dream and the house.
Yep.
And we have
the temple.
The temple and
the statues.
Yes, the statues and the camera. So best episode, favorite.
Easily the 6th.
Okay.
Because there's another character in it.
Okay.
And I feel like the storytelling is better when there's someone else rather than them just trying to explore and being lost with their own thoughts.
Okay. I feel that.
Because they're able to learn more about other parts of the world because they can ask a question and get an answer rather than asking a question and getting, well, I guess.
Okay. Worst episode, least favorite.
Probably in episode 4.
The one with the temple?
I just thought it was like a blatant attempt by the writers to be like, there is no God, booyah, booyah.
Okay.
I thought that was overt rather than trying to be subtle with it.
Yeah, this show definitely wears its philosophical themes on its sleeve. It's not too subtle. Although I don't think that necessarily works against it, at least not all the time, because it is a very starkly naked and apocalyptic scenario that they're in. So they're gonna be questioning,
why are we still here?
Yeah, why are we alive? Why should we go on living?
Because in episode 6, you is constantly singing about how everything she keeps saying
hopeless.
The same hopeless over and over.
Hopeless.
Like there's no hope in the world.
Yeah, what she's actually saying is zetsubo, which is, I think, better translated as despair.
Yeah, that's a lot worse than hopelessness.
Yeah, I think that's a better translation of that word, although I'm no expert in Japanese. I just know that zetsubo means despair because of another anime called Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei, which means goodbye, despair sensei, like a teacher who's always in despair, existentially speaking.
Word.
So I would say that episode 5 was the best.
The house.
Yeah, the house. I really dug the dream sequence with you as the giant person messing with her on top of the rock, and then as the giant fish who threatens to eat her. And I liked the music scene at the end. I thought that was kind of sweet. I agree that episode 4 is the weakest of the 3. I did think they were laying it on pretty thick. Although it wasn't just there is no God. What I wrote down is like the lights go off in the temple, and Yu is kind of freaking out.
Right.
And when she eventually bumps into Chi, she's like, "Oh, like thank God, you're still here.
You're still alive. I'm not alone."
Yeah. I mean, think about.
Why didn't you respond? Because it was funny.
Yeah. I mean, when the lights eventually come back on and they realize that the temple is like so beautiful and so warmly lit and so comforting, one of them speculates, I think Chi speculates, that the reason that the temple is set up that way is because the people who built it wanted to assure themselves that the afterlife is going to be like that. Like they wanted to create a reflection of what they hoped that heaven, I guess, would be like.
Yeah. Or just the afterlife, because there are lots of,
Yeah, we don't have to say heaven.
Religions that go into like an afterlife or a rebirth or something.
Right. But in contrast to what Chi is saying, Yu says, "Oh, I mean, that's all well and good. Like they may have wanted to comfort themselves in that way, but personally, I was way more at ease when I was in the dark and I bumped into you and realized you were still there." So I think what the show is saying is you should value human connection more than you should the idea of the supernatural or
the possibility at the end.
Yeah. Like you should live for right now. You should take comfort in
Carpe diem.
Sure. I guess that's kind of loosely related. Yeah. You should take comfort in the relationships that you have with people around you and hold on to them rather than being fixated on religion or God or the supernatural, anything that you can't touch here and now. So that's a little more, complex than there is no God. But if I had to guess, I would say that that's probably the view that the author holds. So that's episode 4. Episode 6, we can talk a little bit more about that one. I think I took the least amount of notes for that one, maybe.
6, you said?
Yeah. That's the airplane one. That was I think that was a pretty simple story. Although I am curious, you remember when Ishii wants to get in the airplane and fly away, because and what's motivating her is that one day when the air was really clear or whatever,
she could see there was another city.
Yeah, she could see the shore of this next city over. I wonder what she saw.
Well, we saw it.
What did we see?
It's very, very faint, but you can see a city skyline with what a silhouette of one of our cities would look like.
Oh, really?
To me, it looked like New York.
Okay, I didn't. Despite the fact that she said it was really clear out, it looked super hazy to me.
Well, if you're looking a vast distance, even when it's really clear, far off distances are very hazy. The human eye can only see roughly 10 to 15 miles on a good day.
Well, but she was looking through like binoculars or something, or that.
The reason we can only see that far is because there's just a natural haze in the air.
Yeah. So I mean the reason that I bring up that it was hazy was because I wasn't able to see what she saw.
I could.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't. I guess maybe I just didn't pay enough attention, or maybe you're wrong.
Both are possible. I did think that guy had arms coming out of him.
Right, and we'll talk about that a little later, I guess.
Yep.
That's a different show. So she saw something that motivated her to fly over there. Yeah. And so you think that it was like a modern looking cityscape of a much, I don't know, maybe like more promising place to be.
Sure.
Something that would be attractive to her. Like I want to go over there because that looks you know, like maybe there are people over there. Maybe I could live in more comfort.
Or her other thought trade could be anywhere's better than here.
Yeah, for sure. So it doesn't work. Her plane
falls to pieces,
breaks apart in midair. I thought she had died, man. I was convinced that she had died.
I honestly kind of wanted her to.
I sort of agree. I kind of wish that she had died, because it would have like raised the stakes for the two girls, Yu and Chi, going forward. If the show had demonstrated that it was willing to kill. But I was also okay with like kind of the symbolism of her in her parachute drifting back down to the first level and kind of having to start from square one.
Like Icarus.
I think Icarus died.
Well,
so it's not the same.
No, but you know, flew too high.
Yeah.
Wings fall off.
Yeah, and then he fell into the ocean and.
Well, that's falling back down to square one.
Yeah, but I mean, didn't he die? If you hit the waves from that height,
Icarus died.
Yeah, so I don't think it's the same.
No, but it's, you know, because I remember at some point they make a point in saying that the first level is like almost completely picked clean of food and resources.
Yeah, she's gonna have to make her way back up. Exactly. I mean, I kind of have a theory that Ishii knew that she was going to fail, and that's why she was smiling at the end. Like the reason that she set herself to that task was because she needed a purpose, or else she was going to go, you know, nuts.
Yeah,
living alone for so long in that aircraft base or whatever.
I've done that. I've lived by myself for a long period of time. Sometimes not even stepping out of my house for like 2 weeks solid.
2 weeks?
Yeah. When we had breaks when I was in Florida.
Damn!
And it even, like, I'm obviously I'm talking to people, like I'm on Skype, I'm on TeamSpeak, I'm on whatever. But that, just not seeing other people and just being completely by yourself, the only contact you have is the guy at the Taco Bell drive-thru.
Dude, but then you're leaving your house if you're going to the Taco Bell drive-thru.
Yeah, but that doesn't count. I'm not like going. I'm not like going to the club and partying with people, or
is that something you is that something you do?
Of course not.
No, we're watching anime over here.
No, I'm not doing anything like that. But you know what I mean. I'm not having like a friend over, or seeing people or getting lunch or whatever.
Right. It kind of makes you crazy.
It does. Yeah. It definitely gets to you. And having...
So this gave her a purpose.
Right.
So I do kind of think that she knew... I mean, she packed the parachute, right? So she was at least aware of the possibility that it would fail. But I kind of think that she was certain that it wouldn't work. There's no way to prove that, of course.
She does mention, because she's talking to herself, that once you have failed, you're carefree.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she was smiling.
Yeah. She's like, well, I don't have to worry about anything else now.
Yeah.
I tried. I failed.
Now she just has to worry about survival, which is a much more like pressing challenge. And immediate concern, and something that'll really occupy her.
We also know that the next episode is going to be about the food synthesis factory.
Yes, that's where they're going next.
Get some more potatoes.
Right. What's a potato?
I don't know. It's something you eat.
Episode 5 was my favorite, but it was probably the least plot heavy, maybe. It was more about like them using their imaginations to fill up the house that they were living in, and
right.
Chi having that dream about Yu being huge and kind of like messing with her.
Yeah, because they had they were playing the rock stacking game.
Yeah. I just appreciated the fact that the show was demonstrating that they're not just survivors. They also still have like aspirations and dreams and try to entertain themselves and have fun. Like it was very humanizing for me, all of episode 5. And the music at the end as well. The show's kind of asserting that human beings are inherently like artistic and cultural. That wasn't like a freak accident in the development of humanity as we know it in the 3D real world.
Right.
Like the show's saying there's something about humans that is inherently drawn to creating that kind of meaning. So I really liked episode 5, but we don't have the time to go into it in full. So let's move on to Dandy. Space Dandy. These are episodes.
He's a dandy guy in space.
Yes, episodes 7 and 8. So to refresh your memory, episode 7 is the race episode.
Yep.
And episode 8.
Prince.
Yes, with Prince.
He's it starts off at boobies, and Dandy thinks that all the girls are running straight to him, and they just go right past him.
Yeah.
He's just instantly depressed, and it's like a dark cloud hanging over him. I'm going to enter that race.
The sub versus dub thing that I think we were talking about in the last podcast episode, I just wanted to touch on it super quickly here. There is a line, you know, the announcer guy who's commentating the race the whole time?
I'm pretty sure that's Dandy's VO as well.
I think that, VA, right? Voice actor.
Voice actor, they're similar.
Okay. Yeah, the guy who's doing Dandy's voice. I think he's voicing a multitude of characters, actually. Yeah. I kind of hear his voice in like 3 or 4 different people.
That's very common in...
Yeah, I wish it weren't. But, you know, we're kind of spread thin over here in America. Our voice talent pool is...
It's not just that. It also has a lot to do with the union and how much you have to pay people, like regardless of how much work they do. If you pay someone to come in and do 3 lines, you pay him the same as a guy who came in and did 300.
Right. Okay. I see what you're saying.
So it becomes vastly more expensive to hire out people to fill in a crowd than it is. Like if you've seen Rick and Morty before, and
I have.
Justin Roiland does probably 15 or 20 voices per episode.
Yeah, that's a little different because Justin Roiland is one of the creators, and he has a very strong stake in the success of the show and like wanting to shape it into his vision for it. But I see what you're saying. Yeah, the thing about unions and how you can just essentially overburden someone, but just pay them the regular amount.
Yeah.
Instead of bringing in a whole bunch of people that you'd have to pay the same rate.
Exactly.
So what I wanted to talk about for the sub versus dub thing was there was this one instance that stuck out to me where I thought the dub was great. And it was the announcer guy saying, he was describing the race and how it's like anything goes. And the line he said was, anything goes, including noogies and mortal violence. And I turned on the subs to see what it said. And it was just like, anything goes from combat to trickery, or I don't know, something like that. It was just really flat and boring compared to the localization. So, you know, it's good things come out of dubs too. Not that often, but they do for this show, I think.
Cool.
So this episode, let's talk about the ending.
Yeah, the accidental gay sex and the what is it?
What?
The Dandy ends up like inside of him or something. That's
the ship.
Yeah, I know, but that's what they're trying to allude to.
There's definitely homoerotic undertone to the scene because his ship kind of collides with the front of his ship kind of collides with the back of Prince's ship, and Prince is like kind of in love with Dandy or whatever because he's pushing him to new heights as a racer. But it's kind of implied that the magic of homosexuality, like I can't think of the right word for it.
Splendor?
Yeah, kind of. Like the mysticism of it, like the glory of it or whatever, is contributing to this weird singularity that propels Dandy 5.76 billion years into the future.
And he sees a statue of himself.
Yeah, he sees a bodhisattva of himself, like a version of himself that has attained enlightenment and it has now positioned itself at like the center of the cosmos.
He hits the 7th speed velocity or something, I think is what they call it.
Yeah. I just thought that was super far out there and weird and hilarious.
Oh yeah, I thought it was great too.
He's wandering some planet in the deep space, and
well, guys, it looks like it's time for our last resort. But the race just started.
Yeah, he uses his last resort like 3 times throughout the race. QT is always confused. Oh man, this is a great episode.
Yeah, I love the Mickey Mouse character who threatens to sue.
Yes, the fact because their crew is like a bizarro version of Dandy's crew, right? Yeah. Because the Prince also has a robot who's female and way more advanced than QT. And instead of having a cat sidekick, he has a little mouse sidekick who you just mentioned. His name is like Scratch or something. And he's obsessed with like litigation. If you do anything I don't like, I'll sue you. And that's, I mean, to me, that's like a middle finger being raised at Disney.
Absolutely. There's no way that could be anything else.
And later, when they make the pit stop, he steals...
He plants a bomb under their ship.
He plants a bomb under their ship, but I think he also steals like some crucial parts.
He might. I can't remember.
I wrote that down in my notes, so I'm pretty confident that it happened. But to me, that's also like a criticism of Disney. Like you guys are stealing our shit. Like Kimba the White Lion, which is where the Lion King came from. Kimba the White Lion being a Japanese animated production from the 60s or 70s.
Oh wow.
Our mom used to watch when she was a kid, dubbed in America.
Really?
Yeah, Kimba.
I didn't know that.
It has a different name. Kimba the White Lion is the American name, which I don't think is a direct translation of the actual title.
It's just it's the title that would sell.
Yeah, for sure. Like Speed Racer being, I forget what the actual name of that show is, but it is not Speed Racer. It's something else. They're criticizing Disney for being so lawsuit happy when it comes to protecting their characters and their brand, and I think also criticizing them for like cribbing from Japanese animation.
It was interesting that we managed to bring up Speed Racer because I thought that was this episode also kind of like threw back to that. Because the Speed Racer ship had like all these buttons that were like super special abilities or something that he was like, you're not supposed to use that during the race or whatever, and he uses like 9 of them in one race.
Yeah,
I think that was supposed to be like an homage to Speed Racer and how he always just had some weird special ability to help him win.
Yeah, Redline as well. I think I showed you maybe the first 10 minutes of Redline at one point. That really extravagant looking Madhouse film
that took like 8 years or something.
Yeah, 7 years hand drawn. That's the meme.
You know how much we love our memes.
I think that this episode was calling back to Redline, and I think also Outlaw Star, which featured a scene very similar to the scene in this episode where Dandy like shoots the claw thing to grab onto the ship. Like the ship that looks like a high heel or whatever.
The stiletto just like slips it off.
Yeah. There's a scene in Outlaw Star that's like really similar to that. So I think this episode was calling back to a lot of animated racing based productions. And then Dandy's Dandy is all about mixing up and mashing together pop culture stuff. Same way Bebop was.
But with a more absurdist tone.
Yeah, definitely more focused on comedy. I liked everything about this episode. But we got to move on to the next one. We're running out of time, as we always are. So this is the one where they're on the machine planet, kind of split into 2 segments. The first one about the dog, Laika.
Right.
The second one about those Flea brothers. So which one would you say that you liked more?
Probably the dog.
Yeah, I think I agree.
I think...
What do you think?
I think a lot of things, man, but sometimes I just can't form them into... I can't get my word brains out.
Well, I'll mention something that I really loved about episode 8 was when we first started talking about this show, I mentioned that Watanabe was handing off creative control on an episode-by-episode basis to different animators. And this episode had a very unique look to it. Very fluid, very expressive look to it. Do you remember the scene where they get off the ship and QT is like looking through all the junk on the planet and he's like driving all around and his arms are going everywhere and he's picking up all the junk? Yeah, that is very like, as far as TV anime goes, which is, done with a greater time crunch and on a smaller budget and all that stuff, it looked really great. And all the scenes of Dandy playing with the dog and Meow like running around and
sulking in the corner because he wasn't the favorite pet anymore.
Right. And did you also pick up the Bebop reference where he opens the fridge and that slimy looking organism comes out, like in the Bebop episode where
Spike like hunts around with the flamethrower on the ship and tries to light his cigarette with it and burns the whole thing off.
Yeah. In pursuit of the slimy organism from the fridge on the Bebop. So there was a callback there for sure. I think this is one of the best looking episodes of Bebop, of Dandy rather. Just whoever was in charge here, whoever Watanabe gave the reins to, made the characters look really expressive, really alive. So I like it for that reason. I don't think it's as good as some of the higher concept episodes, like the zombie one, the race one we just saw. I have a lot of affection for the Phantom Ramen episode, but this one I really like the look of it.
And the little girl episode, you like that one too?
I did, but not as much in the dub.
Yeah.
So I excluded it just now.
Okay.
So you have anything come to you? Any thoughts about this episode? About the dog part? About the flea part? I don't have a lot of notes there for you to look at. I took more notes for the race for sure.
Right. Now for the...
Do you think it was Laika, the dog? The Russian dog that they sent into orbit?
There's no way to tell. That could have just been some random, let's try to connect this to the real world moment.
Yeah.
In order to kind of just give you like a little thought to ponder at the end of it.
So you don't have an opinion on that?
Not really, because that dog would have been like a gajillion years old.
Right. That's true. It's not likely that it's the dog. Like, it doesn't really make sense for that to be the dog, considering that Space Dandy's set in the distant future. But the narrator, he says, I like to think that it was Laika.
Yeah. I liked the, but I thought the two green men.
The Flea Bros?
The Flea Brothers. Or the Mario Bros. were I don't know, kind of inconsequential.
Yeah.
To the first half of the episode, because they had nothing to do with it.
It was very much split into two parts,
and we saw them. I thought that it was a completely different segue. I had no idea what was going on because we saw them like laying on what looked like just a field of grass, but it turns out it was Lika's fur.
Yeah.
And then they said, "Look, a sign from the great beyond," and they jumped onto Meow.
Right. Oh, dude, the part where Dandy and Meow are running from QT, who's been in. That's another example of like just all the kinetic energy of this episode, and like how lively it was.
Running around and throwing through things and running through doors and sealing off hatches.
Yeah, I really like that.
Then they like throw like water or beer or something on QT.
Yeah, and he short circuits.
Out. Whatever you do, don't step on beep.
I didn't understand how they were holding the planet together. I didn't really. I mean, I get that they
control machines.
Yeah, like their life force was tied to the planet itself and everything on it, but I don't really get how or why that's possible. Or
for those of you who can't see, I'm shaking my head and silently mouthing, "I don't know."
Yeah, that's because he's yawning.
Yeah, I'm very tired.
Well, we've only got one more. You being tired is okay because we've only got one more episode to go, one more show to go. So let's talk about it. This is Ancient Mage's Bride, episode 8, and I have some notes down here, so I'll scroll to them. Wait, where are they? Oh God. Okay, here they are. I didn't take too many notes. What were your thoughts about this episode?
Scary monster, nice dog.
Okay, give me a little more than that. How'd you feel about it? The episode?
It just felt like an episode. I didn't feel like there was anything like revolutionary being done. It did a lot of explaining, I guess, sort of as to who the white-haired person was.
The sorcerer guy.
But we did learn that there's a second name that he goes by, which you probably wrote down.
I didn't. I remember that he prefers to go by Joseph, and he gets real triggered when you say his actual name.
Just like, Elias doesn't get triggered when he hears.
We should probably stop saying triggered. It's not really an appropriate use of the word.
When he gets annoyed. He doesn't really get annoyed when people use his actual name.
Right. But this guy does, for whatever reason.
And so did the other sorcerer.
Scarface.
When Elias referred to him by an alternate name.
Oh, you lost me a little bit there. Who were you talking about? What other sorcerer?
Scarface.
Oh, he also got pissed when Elias used his real name?
Don't use that name.
I don't remember that. Okay. Maybe sorcerers, like, have to divorce themselves from their previous names and like adopt new names as part of their acquisition of magical power or something.
But we still don't fully know where a sorcerer gets their power.
Yeah, we do, don't we? They, like, mages use fairies and sprites, right. And sorcerers do some kind of transmutation or something. They're like scientists, kind of. And in a sense, I guess they're kind of heretics, or maybe thought of that way. Yeah, I guess we don't know exactly how it works. But I didn't remember that Scarface as well had reacted badly when Elias called him by his real name.
Yeah, during the 5th episode when they were talking to each other.
Right, that was still the cat arc and the big gooey blob whole mess thing.
And Joseph was part of he's like, oh yeah, that could have worked out better.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
This episode starts with, I mean, at the end of the last episode, Chisei had been skewered by the chimera that Joseph...
It looked like it went straight through her.
Yeah, and it did. You can see in this episode that there's an entry wound on her back and an exit wound on her breast.
I never noticed that there was an exit wound on the front of her.
I'm pretty sure there was, dude. And it doesn't make any sense to me that she was... Well, I mean, a lot of this episode didn't really click with me very much. It didn't make sense to me that she was conscious, or that she was able to summon so much magical power and like get so intense and start to
blow off Elias's arm.
Yeah, and like start stalking towards the white-haired dude and be like, I'm gonna end you because you were mean to my new dog friend. She should be like near death because of blood loss. I understand that she's a slay beggar and she has,
super magic.
Yeah,
super abilities.
She's an uber magician. But a lot of her actions really did not sit well with me this episode. I didn't like how active she was, despite having been like hit. Like it looked like her heart was pierced.
It looked like any scene in a video game where somebody gets impaled for some reason and then like immediately clutches at whatever impaled them and then dies. Except she didn't die.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could accept it if the show had justified her survival with, she's a magician. Her life force is stronger.
But she's constantly talked about as being fragile. Like, you're more fragile than everyone else. It's easier for you to die.
Isn't it just that her lifespan is less?
No, I think they specifically say fragile several times.
I see. Well, okay. So if that's the case, that doesn't really make sense either.
Yeah.
But putting aside her potential fragility, just the fact that she was up and about in this episode, I didn't like. I mean, I like it when the protagonist of a show is active rather than just sitting on the sidelines. But it didn't make sense here that she was. I also didn't like the fact that Elias was in his monster form at the start of this episode, and she was totally okay with that and not afraid of him, which is just like dumbass writing. She's not supposed to be head over heels for this guy. She's supposed to have retained like a little bit of her distrust for other people. It doesn't make sense for her to be so accepting of his true hideous, frightening form. That
is scaring everyone else.
Yeah.
And she is just like, yeah, you're not going to fit through the door like that.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I didn't like the fact that one pet peeve that I have with this show? The head patting. Have you noticed that everyone pats Chisei's head? Elias does it in every episode.
Maybe it's like a good luck thing.
I think it's like a Japan thing, and I think there's a certain amount of fetishization to it.
I don't know. The only thing I can remember is from Community where Jeff and Annie are like trying to figure out a way like to hug or something like that, and she's like, just pat me, and she pats her head and just walks away.
Yeah. But the point of the head pat there is that there's an awkward amount of sexual tension between the two characters, and the head pat is the only bridge that they can come up with to still interact without,
right,
jumping all over each other or whatever. In here in Mahoutsukai no Yome, it's like, I don't know. It's kind of, when you're patting someone's head, you're kind of infantilizing them. You're making them out to be like much younger and much more helpless than they are. And Elias is doing that with Chisei, and so did the priest, Simon, and at least one other character, if not more. I've noticed it in every other episode, if not the vast majority. And it's just annoying. Like,
I always thought that was demeaning.
Yeah, I think that's a good word for it. It like just let her come into her own and become comfortable with other people at her own pace. I'm talking to the author here, not the characters. Like, don't accelerate her acceptance of everybody.
Especially because you've got 26 episodes to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is an adaptation of a manga, as many anime are.
Is it a manga or a light novel?
It's a manga.
Okay.
Yeah, and a pretty well regarded one at that. And I'm disappointed with this adaptation. I haven't read the manga. I don't know how faithful it is or how well structured it is. But I'm pretty disappointed, man.
It's not enough author's notes.
What? What, in the subs?
Yeah.
I don't care about author's notes. I mean, they can be kind of annoying at times or intrusive. But I don't think any amount of author's notes would help this. I don't think the complete lack of author's notes would help this. I think there's
author's note. 17 months has passed since the last episode.
A 17-month time skip might explain why she isn't like freaking the heck out when she sees Elias's terrible, thorny, weird skull form with fur all over it.
That thing could never be human. Yeah.
So I just went on my little rant. What do you think about this episode? You kind of were talking about it as though it was like any other episode.
Yeah.
And it kind of was. So anything else that happened here? How'd you feel about the villain like getting shot with a magical bullet to stop his regeneration and then like popping back up and then they like leave to another part of the forest and then he appears again?
Yeah, he's like, find them with your hair.
What?
He has that other chimera that's Isabel.
Right. The Church Grimm's sister? Pretty sure they're brother and sister.
It doesn't really explain it.
It does in the last
well.
episode. They're related.
Okay.
They're not lovers.
Because he's not human and he's not a dog. I remember the Will-o'-the-Wisp like helps him complete his transition, as well as becoming Chisei's familiar.
Yeah, I'd say that was the biggest development in this episode.
You have a familiar to help you do magic now.
Right. And
if you die, he dies. But the reverse is not stated to be true.
Yeah, well, she kind of owns him at this point.
Yeah.
He's like a servant to her, or he's subservient to her.
I'll find you when I'm done with her. The dog says.
She gives him the name Ruth.
Yep.
Which doesn't make a lot of sense. It's a traditionally female name, but whatever. It's 2017.
It's Babe Ruth's last name.
That's true.
It's possible that's his last name, or like a new surname for him would be Ruth.
Maybe. We'll see.
Because generally speaking, in Japanese culture, don't you refer to people almost entirely by their second name?
It depends on your level of familiarity with the person. If you're speaking formally to someone, you'll use their family name, which does come first. If you're more on speaking terms, or if you're peers with that person, they're not like an elder or someone who you need to speak respectfully to, then you'll use their given name, which in Japanese comes second.
Okay.
But
I think just the reverse of us.
I think you kind of. Yeah, the words are flipped.
Yeah, the words are flipped, but the meanings are still the same.
Yeah. But I don't think that she's given him a new family name. I think that she's intending to refer to him as Ruth. But I mean, that's
just a guess.
That's not that big a deal. All right. Yeah, I didn't like this episode too much.
And we got supervillain who just teleports away.
Yeah, he does.
I like the Will-o'-the-Wisp.
I was annoyed by the Will-o'-the-Wisp, but really? I think that's just because I was sour on the episode as a whole.
I thought he was kind of cool.
Where can we see how long our recording has gone on for so far?
Like that.
Oh God. Okay. You want to any closing thoughts about Mahoutsukai?
in the future, let Wolf.
Hello?
Never mind. It's a reference that no one will understand.
Okay, any thoughts about the anime Mahoutsukai no Yome, a.k.a. the Ancient Mage's Bride, that people will understand? I mean, it's okay to say no, but if you have any...
I have thoughts on it, but I just don't know entirely what they are. I mean, I'm curious to see what if Ruth, what's his name? No, not Ruth. The villain, Joseph becomes, if you can't kill him this easily, and he just puts his arm back on.
Yeah.
How do you stop him?
Okay. Right.
Super nuclear mage explosion of ultimate power. Is that what?
Borrow some N2 mines from Ava. Try to blow him up.
He's got an AT field, man. Can't do that.
I mean, he's magical, so he probably has something better than AT fields.
Yeah.
I honestly think he's annoying. I think his way of speaking, like his aloofness, his like, oh, why are you so mad? I'm just trying to make a chimera. Oh, don't get so mad, Thorn Mage. LOL. I think he's annoying. I don't like him.
Okay, bye.
But he's definitely powerful, and it's going to pose a challenge for our heroes to take him down.
They made a point to say that it's possible that he was cursed to live out the rest of his days on Earth, and that he literally can't die. Like
I do remember something about that. Who would have cursed him, though?
I think it was supposed to be Jesus cursed him. They said the Son of God.
They did say something about that, didn't they? I should have put that in my notes. That seems pretty important.
And that he was cursed by the Son of God to live out the rest of his days on Earth.
Yeah.
Which would explain the can't regenerate, comes back anyways.
Interesting. Yeah, there's definitely a religious component to the show.
Because we got the priest and the church, and now
the church plays they like have a big role in what's going on, though not as much as Hellsing.
Right.
But that would be impossible. All right, do you want to rate these shows?
Yeah, let's rate them.
Okay, I got my rankings here. You got your rankings there. Let's read them off. What did you put at the bottom?
Last Tour.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
That's sad.
It may have to do with the fact that I was tired when I was watching it, but I was just like, I want this to end so I can go to bed.
Oh, damn. All right. I put Wales.
Okay.
As I have been for...
consistently.
Yes, many weeks now.
All right.
Fifth?
Wales.
Okay, I put Yome.
Okay.
Fourth?
Magus.
Okay, Last Tour. So we have the same bottom three, just in a different order.
Mm-hmm.
Third?
Hellsing.
I put Hellsing as well. I like this episode. I wouldn't say that the show is up my alley, but I did like it. I thought it was well produced. I thought a lot of stuff was like really badass. I think this is the highest I've ever rated Hellsing.
I think so too. Yeah.
So I think it deserves the number 3 spot here.
All right.
2?
Ava.
Okay, I put Dandy.
All right.
And so we have them swapped for the number 1 spot. So why Dandy first?
That episode with the racing was just so over the top and so incredibly ridiculous and amazing. I loved every minute of it.
Yeah, it's great for sure.
I was watching it while my roommate was sleeping, and I'm like having to like hold my mouth shut because I'm trying not to burst out laughing and wake him up the whole time. And so to me, it was pretty clear that I was enjoying it very, very much.
Yeah, it's a good episode. Good show.
Yeah.
I put Ava first because I just love... I'm not an Ava fanboy, I wouldn't say, but I...
You're out on the forums arguing who is best angel.
No, because I already know. It's Ramiel. But I definitely respect the hell out of the show. So it's...
Oh, don't think I don't. I just enjoyed, Dandy a little more this time. So.
Yeah, I know you do, and that's cool. I think Ava is a good metric of like good taste in anime.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that like the last 4 times we've talked about this.
I'm just an elitist, dude.
Yep.
I mean, there's no such thing as good taste, right?
Right.
It doesn't exist.
Taste is subjective.
And there's no real way to measure the quality of an anime or a TV show or a piece of art either.
Unless you think the Emoji Movie is good, in which case you are wrong.
I actually would go so far as to say there is no good or bad art. And
have you seen?
It's not. No, I haven't seen the emoji movie. The reason I say that is not because I don't believe that there's good or bad art. Like I know what I think is good and I know what I think is bad, and I think I can talk relatively, like effectively and intelligently about why I like the things I like, why the things I like are good, you know, quote unquote good. But you can't really say something is good or bad because people have different emotional reactions to everything.
Sure.
Not just art, but everything that there is, because everyone's lived a different life and experienced different stuff.
Right.
And so there are people out there who really think that the Emoji Movie is like a killer movie and it really spoke to them on like a deep level. People exist like that in the world.
Those are some weird people because even the audience score is bad.
Yeah, but are they weird, or have they just lived a completely different life that's totally foreign to us and we wouldn't be able to understand?
Or maybe they've just been fed so much stuff from the media machine.
Well, that's part of the experience that I'm talking about, is like what kind of media you've been exposed to.
I mean, I suppose it was obviously entirely targeted at like 12 and under.
Yeah, it was targeted at kids for sure.
And if they got enjoyment out of it, then that is a piece of art to them.
Yeah, but
in 5 years they won't, but they do now.
It's not just kids who liked it. You know, let's just take the United States, which is where we live. There's 300 million people in this country. 330 million?
Yeah.
There have got to be, 100,000 adults who loved it. Like, who loved it.
I guess.
Yeah.
I'd think they're wrong.
Well,
they have every right to be like, yeah, I like this, and be like, well, I disagree, but good for you.
I agree that they have the right, but I think I would go so far as to say that they are not wrong. Like you can't be wrong about that.
Well, maybe I'm just even more elitist than you.
No, I'm definitely a bigger elitist than you, dude. I just don't think it's possible to dismiss people's opinions and emotional reactions to stuff offhand like that. I don't think it makes logical sense.
Sure.
So that's my rant.
All right. That's a pretty good note to close this on. Basically, whatever kind of anime you like, we're not going to spit in your face for it, but we'll think bad thoughts about you in our head.
I think I would do the opposite. I think I would spit on you, but I would still respect you as a human being.
It's very difficult to respect somebody as a human being and spit on them at the same time.
I make it work, man. Are we dropping any shows?
Do you want to get rid of Whales?
Not really.
I mean, if you're going to keep watching it, we might as well just keep, pooping on it for the next while.
Yeah, I'm okay to ride out this wave, this terrible sand wave. I guess that's it for us.
Okay, well, then we'll see you next time on the next episode of
Anime Podcast. We're not doing the acronym this week.
Average Respect Master Entertainment.
Yeah, all right. I guess you got it in there. Bye, everyone.